Hello everyone, good morning. Well, I'll not take much time and I'll brief about Dr. Suraj Kumar Singh. So currently Dr. Suraj Kumar Singh is working as HOD and Associate Professor at Center for Climate Change and Water Research in Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. Dr. Suraj Kumar has got 12 years of teaching and research experience. Prior to this, Dr. Singh has worked as a faculty in eminent institutions and University of India like Central University of Jharkhand, Ranchi and Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra. Dr. Singh was also associated with some of the eminent institutes of our country like Indian Space Research Organization, National Remote Sensing Center, NRSC, Hyderabad. He has worked on various projects funded by Government of India like Wasteland Atlas of India and National Urban Information System. Dr. Singh has published more than 55 research and review articles in peer-referred national and international journals. He has been author of 4 books and 6 book chapters in international publication houses. Dr. Singh has participated in more than 35 conferences, training programs, and workshops. There is a lot of noise. Please, I'm requesting everybody, please keep your mic at mute mode. Dr. Singh also did various certified courses from ISRO, NASA, and ESRI, and presently he is supervising 6 PhD students on various areas like environmental modeling, flood and drought management, mitigation, watershed prioritization and management, health GIS, geoheritage and geosites conservation and management. So with this, I would request Dr. Suraj Singh, please take over and continue with your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Suraj Kumar Singh. I'll be representing Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur, Rajasthan. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, for their successful geo lecture web series that they are being doing over the days, months, and that they will be continuing in coming months. So all the best for the coming projects that your department, your center is going to organize. Secondly, I'll start with my presentation. Lecture, I'll be teaching you about the basics of remote sensing, GIS, GPS technology, which its application in various allied discipline. And then I come to the specific 2 topics that nowadays each and every person is reading in televisions and in newspaper, that is flood and the pandemics that each and everyone know, that is COVID-19. So what does remote sensing and GIS mean? So whenever you're talking about GIS, whether you're talking about because I asked to the participant that the maximum students are from geology, geography, and some of them are from GIS background. So if you are from geology and from geography, the biggest challenge is mapping the Earth surface. So maximum students are from geology and geography. So the biggest challenge is ki whenever you're talking about geology, you have to time frame research has to be done. Ki what has happened in the prior history, what is going to happen today, and what is going to happen in future. And for such kind of problem to a solution, the geoinformatics technique provide you the solution. So when we are talking about geospatial technology, we are talking about remote sensing, GIS, and GPS. So what does remote sensing means? Remote sensing means to obtain information about any object, area, or phenomena without coming into physical contact with the object. Means what? Uh, for example, if you see that right now each and every day you have a discussion on a television that there can be a war with China. So I've been associated with DRDO, DTRL, where the different kind of terrain and some defense strategy preparedness plans are being prepared. So how can you prepare the plans which is beyond your territory, like what the Nepal is doing, what the Pakistan is doing, or what the Chinese are doing? How would you know? Nobody can go to their territory. The only thing that can go and can obtain you the information and that is beyond your capacity is a satellite. Satellite provides you the images of each and every terrain whether that is approachable, whether that is unapproachable. The satellite is controlled by Government of India. So each and every information related to various terrain of the neighbors can be obtained. So each and every day you're seeing on a television that they are saying that 500 meters they have encroached, 4 kilometers they have encroached. So how could you measure those distance? Those distance are measured using cartography techniques that we apply in this remote sensing data sets. Now, the second important thing for remote sensing data sets are GIS technique. So what does GIS technique do? GIS techniques provides you the different decision support system through which you can store the data, you can manipulate the data, you can analyze the data to obtain a meaningful operation. What does it mean? It means that if right now you see that each and every day there is a donation given by Government of India, red zone, green zone, orange zone. So by seeing those donation, you can identify yourself at that point of location where you're staying right now, whether that is into green zone, blue zone, or orange zone. But the same data, instead of geographical location, if it would have been in a hard copy form, it was tough to identify. If I will give various data sets related to Earth, if I compare the entire geo database of India related to pin codes, related to their name, it's quite tough to handle those data sets. But GIS provides you that technique through which you can solve your problem. Like if you want to go for some kind of groundwater exploration or recharge structure, so how would you identify which are the suitable sites where you can go for recharge structures? Because when you're going for any kinds of exploration, you have to do multi thematic analysis, whether that is geomorphology, geology, lithology, water table, land use, land cover, linear structures, and various slope, drainage density. There are other parameters too that has to be taken into consideration for any kind of site suitability analysis. And GIS provides you that solution where the multi thematic layers can be overlaid to provide a specific site where you can go for exploration. So that conserves and saves time, and that saves money. And finally, each and every persons are using this GPS technology. So right now when you are having a mobile, it has a geographical latitude location. So what does it mean? This GPS technology that we use divides of weather condition. It can be used in all weather condition, whether you go in forest, whether you go in mountains, you can locate yourself. For example, if you want to have a raid in Chambal, if you are taking a mobile, handheld mobile, its signals would be lost. So at that point of time, what to do when you into a dense forest? Your mobile signals will be lost. So that's why you require a GPS. In the same way, if there is a submarine, it is going in the coastal areas, there the signals are lost. So what happens? So for those kind of things, GPS technology is being used. Okay, so at last, those techniques are being applied in various applications, whether it is into disaster management, whether into a smart city, whether it is into forest management system, whether into urban information system. So each and every department, whatever comes to your mind, you can apply this collaboration of 4 or 5 techniques. Nowadays, we can have 3D images of the terrain, and from the laboratory itself we can map the height that I'll be showing you in the current slides. So what are the application? So whatever comes to your mind, whether it is into engineering, it is into mapping, surveying, forest information system, soil types identifying, topography, hydrography, infrastructures, rainfall, rock properties, hydrography, aquifers, ecology, all this information, because the biggest advantage is the satellite image provides you a synoptic overview. So what does synoptic overview means? A large area can be viewed and can be mapped through a single satellite image. If you are standing on a ground, you can see 100 meters. If you stand on the top of a 3D stored building, you can see 500 meters. If you stand on a 11 floor building, you see 500 meters. Means as you increase your height, the amount of information increases. So when a satellite takes the images of the Earth, which is from 7 to 900 kilometers away from us, it provides you a synoptic overview on large area, and it's a multidisciplinary in approach. Means a person who is from forestry can see the forest species, can identify the forest type. A person who is from geology can see the various areas of rock types, its property, then different structures, whether it is fold, fault, what is the, because lineaments, faults are regional structures that cannot be viewed. You cannot stand in the field and you can view. If you want to identify the paleo channels, you cannot identify on the field. So the only thing through which all these subjects and the technology has to be taken into consideration for identifying of these resources. So remote sensing and GIS is readily used by Government of India. So what the Honorable Prime Minister has said about his vision about digital India, e-governance. So he has established a center that is known as National Center for Geoinformatics, where all the discipline, what I have stated till now, you can go for job openings, you can go for projects, you can go for various research activities, you can type on a Google and you will find those links in Government of India site. So at last, what is the biggest advantage? If you're a geologist or a geographer, the biggest identifying the biggest challenge is to identify the abundance of natural resource. Many of the resources what right now we are seeing are still unexplored, are still unassessed. So the only technique through which you can obtain those information about the unassessed and undiscovered in association with various physical instrumentation is remote sensing and GIS. So using this technology, you can identify, go for various kinds of exploration, and then you can connect those exploration to the sustainable development goals. Finally, whatever we are doing, you have to connect those entire operations into SDGs goal. So as a planner, if I'm a district management, if I'm a DC, if I'm a prime minister, I need a map, I need a information system through which we can identify which blocks, which area, which panchayat the population's ratio is high. Because I have been to various projects. There was a project in Government of India I did for education department, where when we plotted the school data, whether that is a high school data or college data, to the various panchayats, we found that the maximum facilities was located to the MLA from where he got elected, and the persons from used to come from 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers. So GIS provide you those problems, and using this different techniques of overlay, buffer, and various drainage density network analysis, you can come for the solution. Like if you are booking any cab in a Ola, you just when you book, you get a tentative price. So how that price come? That came to use association with GIS, GPS, and remote sensing technique. So if you are talking about its application, the application is unlimited. Like if you are going for watershed management, the watershed, the river dynamics, I'll be showing it's thousands of kilometers where it originates, where it ends. You cannot visually see in the field because the fields are inaccessible. So the only information through which you can do is satellite images. So using those images, we can do various kinds of hydro project estimation. We can go for various engineering designing, whether that is a reservoir construction, and we can connect the secondary data. So whenever you see that, whenever there is a survey being done nowadays, every person who surveys your house connects that house with a geotag. They do geotagging. Geotagging means whatever information he has connected to that particular X and Y is being connected to its secondary database. Because in remote sensing and GIS data, we don't go for attribute data, we go for spatial data. Spatial data means when we do two kind of analysis in GIS, also known as attribute data and spatial data. For example, if I type a name Ranchi. That name Ranchi can be in India, can be in Pakistan, can be in Bangladesh. But if I type the exact X and Y location on any particular point where I am standing right now, if I am giving a presentation, that point is different for any portion of the world. So just like a Aadhaar, where your thumb and your eye act as a unique identification for identification of particular records, in the same way remote sensing and GIS, we use this geographical data, the spatial data into consideration, and then we connect all the secondary data. You can connect unlimited data to that spatial data, and you can come with various kinds of maps. What is the socio-economic structures, what is the population density, what is the percentage of scheduled tribes population in any panchayat, caste, marginal laborers, major laborers. So all kinds of analysis can be done. Apart from that, I have already stated that you can go for various kind of topographical analysis. Means generally, if I say you have to create a topography, means when I'm talking about topography, you have to create contours. So contours, how you will create a contours, either using field-based data, or you have to scan the Survey of India topographical sheet. You have to get it a geo-reference, and then you have to extract those contours. But if you are going to do that, is a very time consuming, and that is accurate when it comes to accuracy. So to this solution, the satellite data, that is SRTM, shuttle radar topographical mission, with a spatial resolution of 90 meters and 30 meters, and Aster GDM with a spatial resolution of 30 meters. Then you have got Cartosat, where you use this data sets for creation of those contours, and through those contours you can create digital elevation model. And once you have created the digital elevation model or digital surface model, you can create digital surface model, you can calculate differential terrain model, and that can provide you the exact height of any terrain. So in case if we have got a war with China, so what can be the area through which our artillery will be moving, what is the area through which our army will be moving, all the things are ready. So whenever you see on television, it was shown that military officials was showing our honorable prime minister a map. So the success to the victory for any war in coming era will be the more you're equipped with the latest technology in remote sensing, whether that is a GPS or whether that is remote sensing data. So recently there was a Uri attack. So how did we identify those bunkers where they are located? Because time is money, and their spatial location must be accurate. It must be 100% accurate. Because if that is not accurate, if you've got 2 hours for searching that specific location, if you're wasting that 2 hours for searching that site, so the entire plan waste off. So satellite data provide you the exact X and Y. For in case ki right now, if you've got a war with the China, we must do maximum damage to them. So for doing the maximum damage to them, you must have to identify your targets. You have to identify their airports, you have to identify their military bases, and then you can have various kinds of attack. So how will you identify their exact spatial location? So remote sensing and data provides you, where we use the different image interpretation techniques, whether it is a visual interpretation techniques or digital interpretation techniques, to identify those earth objects, and then we can have various kinds of operation in case we are having a war, because in time of a war you cannot prepare. So this that helps you to identify, do different kinds of defense preparedness. You can go for disaster preparedness, you can go for various kinds of urban planning. For example, if you are right now, government of India is thinking to create or has a plan, or they are developing various smart city. So what does a smart city mean, and how did it will be created, how will be the master plan will be created? So all this information, because there the terrain analysis has to be done, there the landscape mapping has to be done. So if you are from doing any environmental project, whether it is related to mining, that I'll be coming in coming slides, EI reports has to be done using this remote sensing and GIS technology. So now I'll start off with my topic. That was an introduction to remote sensing GIS, its application. Now I come up with how these subjects can be applied in real sense for this sustainable development. How many agriculture area has been submerged? What are the areas? Which are the villages that has been destroyed? What is the trend of this flood dynamics? Whether that will continue, whether that will stop. So all such kind of analysis related to spatial dimension, ki what is the area of this flood, how this area has increased over the decade, because nobody what damage it has done to the utilities, whether it is road, railway, other facility mapping. Because when there is a flood, you cannot go to that terrain because that is detached from the other mainland, because the entire area is submerged with water. So the only technique through which you can have a real-time information is remote sensing data. So government of India use readily this satellite data sets for creation of this flood disaster map, and government of India has also made compulsory remote sensing data for crop insurance. Means what? Crop insurance means just like health insurance. If somebody has done, in case his crop is damaged, he'll be claiming it. So how does if SBI has done a crop insurance, or ICICI bank has done a crop insurance, how would he provide insurance to that agricultural fellow? So what he'll do, he'll see in the satellite image, because many times what happen, the entire villagers, whether his land is submerged in water or it's unsubmerged, he'll be claiming it. So how to identify? I cannot go into each and every person's field whether his land is submerged or not. So what I'll be doing, I'll be doing different image processing classification techniques, where I'll be doing different normalized different vegetation index. Then we have got normalized different water index, modified normalized different water index. So all those different image processing techniques will be utilized to identify whether his land was submerged in water. For example, if 100 rupees is to be provided for 1 hectare, and if it's 400 hectare has been destroyed, you can multiply with that amount and can be directly transferred to his account. So what it does, it reduces the corruption also, and it's a time saving. But the disadvantage of this data right now, what I am showing you is a optical data that is taken from IRS, Indian Remote Sensing Satellite. The sensor is LEAS 3. LEAS 3 is the sensor, just like a human being. We have got some eyes. In the same way, a satellite has got eyes, and that eyes is LEAS 3. That is linear imaging self scanning with a spatial resolution of 23.5 meters. Means each pixel size is for 23.5 into 23.5 meters. Area can be seen. So the disadvantage of this image is, in the right hand side you can see that, or even in the left hand side, that many of the portion white color you can see. So this white color in this current satellite image represents cloud cover. So in case of a cloud cover, what will happen? It will obstruct the information beneath those cover. So in the right hand side, in the July 16, if you see that some portions you can see, but maximum portion is still under cloud. So I cannot have the real time representation ki what is the exact area and what is the exact land where the water has drawn. For that, we have got another satellite data that is known as microwave satellite data, where we using the radar set data set, pulsar data sets. They are the microwave data for doing such kind of analysis, because they are weather, all weather conditions data. They can penetrate the rain droplets, they can penetrate the cloud. So right now I'll be showing you some of my case study research publications that I have done in the pre-reviewed international publication houses like in Springer, Taylor Francis, Science Direct. I'll be showing some of my research here, how this subject can be used for the real time for the management of resource for saving life. So here what we have done, we have taken our radar set data and we have created a spatio-temporal dynamic maps. Means if there is a flood, I want to see what is the area that is likely to be affected in over the period of time. Like what is the land that it is going to submerge by 22nd August, then 25, 27. So you can see that over the months when it started and it's ending, what is the pattern? Whether it's increasing, whether it's decreasing. So we have got various simulation model through which we can predict and we can save the life. You cannot stop this thing to happen, but you can save life. Just like nowadays, if you're seeing that NDRF or NIDM in case of a cyclone, they came and they say ki bala bala cyclone will happen at a bala bala date with a bala time. So how that they know? So they know using geostationary satellite images that are telecommunication and weather forecasting satellite images that are used for preparation of those maps. So using those simulation patterns we create in our computer, where we do different kinds of simulation based modelings, and we create a artificial model for that cyclone. So whenever you will see that there is a prediction, but the nature does something different, but more likely nowadays, because of the increase in the data sets and the models and different programming language, we are more closer to the nature, because nature can increase its component, it can decrease. We just provide those, we think those components, and we provide those input layers to those simulation models, and that create an output. So that is a user dependent, so that can vary. So using this data, you can see that what was the spatial dynamics in that area. But secondly, whenever you are doing or using any technology, if you are a geologist or a geographer, always go for the genesis, always go for why it happened, why, what will happen, what is going to happen in near future. You have to have different kinds of research question in your mind for doing any kind of research. So into my mind was ki, why did it happen into particular year only ki we had that flood hazard was very high in number. So I took various data sets of rainfall. So if you are going for the rainfall data sets in India, there is a IMT department who provides you the data, but for that you have to procure. But in India, the biggest disadvantage is regarding the fellowship and the data procurement, because you don't have the price. Or if I am doing for the entire India, it can if I am going for IMD data, secondary data, that can cost you more than 6 to 10,000 rupees. But for that you have got different websites where you can use satellite image data sets for prediction of those rainfalls. Those data sets are known as TRMM, Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission. That provides you the data of the precipitation that is likely to be happen, or that will happen. It is hourly basis, it is daily basis, it is monthly basis, and that is free of cost. So I was into a scholar who was always looking for the data that is free of cost, whether that is a satellite data, or whether that was a secondary data, whether that is a rainfall data, soil data, whatever data. So all the data sets, if you are going into the research nowadays, the USGS website, and there are various other platforms throughout the web, that you can get your data sets free of cost, and you can have a real data where you can interpolate those data sets and you can create your own map. So the copyright will be with you, nobody can claim, because that was a raw data that you will be downloading it, and then you will be doing your own pre-processing, post-processing to obtain the result. So what we found that if you go for the flood dynamics, there was a huge amount of rainfall in the upland ratio that I'll be discussing in detail in the coming slides. Ki why you are seeing rainfall, flood disasters in Haryana, Punjab, Bihar. So how the secondary data, rainfall data was taken into consideration, and it was correlated because of a high amount of rainfall that damage happened in the upland land ratio as well as in the lowland area. This is another case study where I wanted to give to the administrative department the various state blocks and panchayat which are probable or which are at a high risk because of waterlogging and flood. They are the two prominent disasters in Eastern Gangetic Plain. Because my area of research is in Eastern Gangetic Plain, I work more on flood and waterlogging dynamics. So I thought of creating a database where I can provide an administrator an information system so that he can provide a plan structure so that there will be maximum loss to the life. So we used various satellite data of AWIPS is advanced wide field scanner, then ETM plus is a American the satellite data in advanced thematic mapper, then MSS, and those data were taken into consideration. Because why it was taken into consideration? Because I wanted to see whether the pattern of flood dynamics has changed over the decades, or it's stagnant, or whether it's common to a particular terrain. So all such kind of analysis, if I have to do, I have to take the historical data. But for historical and authentic data, I cannot take a secondary data or a road data, because I have to go and I'm going to perform those geospatial analysis. For that, we have got the satellite series available from 1972 onwards till date that are free of cost. Prior to that, we have got 1950 Survey of India topographical sheets, and prior to that, we have got 1925 AMS Army Map Services data topographical sheets created by US Army, and that is free of cost, and you can download it. Means from 1925 onwards, we have survey data that can be brought into GIS domain, and you can do various kind of GIS analysis. So that was one portion that we did related to flood. Now the other portion is ki if there is flood and nobody is living in that terrain, let that happen. There will be no risk. There will no person vulnerable. So what I thought, ki we must connect the socio-economic parameters in the our primary data set, so that we can identify the districts or the terrain, how much percentage of area, what are the panchayats, what are the blocks which are at a very high risk in case there is a flood and waterlog that area, so that the district management or the district administration can prepare accordingly. In the same way, there is another study where I have used various data sets for creation of this waterlogging dynamics in the northern Bihar plain, because the terrain is flat, and in case there is a flooding in that area and the soil that is on the surface is clay soil, the water stays throughout the year. So that land where the water stays throughout the year was marked as permanent waterlog, and that goes and evaporates during the cover month is known as seasonal waterlog. So these are also a flood itself is a damage, but once the flood goes off, this water still stays in various portions of the land in UP, Bihar, and West Bengal. So that is a disaster in that area, because gradually this is converting the productive land into salinity land, because in case the water evaporates, it leaves salt in the soil, and gradually if it is recurrent in that portion of the land, the entire thing will be gradually converted into salt affected land. That is being happening in IGNP, Indira Gandhi Nehar Pariyojana, that I'll be coming in with how the canals are responsible for this. So when I see this map, so you must think as a researcher, why only waterlogging, why not scrublands? And if it is waterlogging, whether this waterlogging in any terrain has to do with the natural factor, or it has got any connection with any anthropogenic factor, like construction of roads, construction of dams, construction of canals, construction of railways. So whenever I am doing any research, you must go for the genesis. So this both parameters was taken into consideration to identify what was the problem. So this is a satellite image showing the different river systems of eastern Gangetic Plains, especially of Bihar. So right now I have shown the entire northern Bihar water rivers. So you can see that the rivers which are draining in Bihar, the yellow is the political boundary of Bihar, and beyond that you have got Nepal and China. So you can see that the rivers has got their origination from China, crosses Nepal and meets Ganga. So the amount of size, the runoff that it brings during the monsoon period, if you see the upper catchment is the runoff catchment, means the carrying capacity which brings the water, and lower is where it goes and meets the river. So if you see that the upper size is 5 times bigger than the lower size, means the the amount of rainfall is very high and it's beyond the carrying capacity of a river, especially if you go for Kosi and Gandak. There are other rivers, Bagmati, Kamla, Bana, and Budi Gandak. But if you go this Gandak, this Budi Gandak and Kosi, each and every year there is recurrent flooding. That's why they are known as sorrow of Bihar. So if I am going for the management of this flood dynamics, and if I am concentrated on the boundary, Indian boundary, you can see that the entire water that is coming into the Indian political boundary is coming from the Himalayas. That creates huge amount of runoff. So whatever planning that you are doing has to be seen on a regional basis. It cannot be seen on a political basis because the river has its own natural boundary. You cannot have any political decision for a natural feature. So you can see that using this satellite image, thousands of area, each and every tributaries, the first order, the second order, the third order, the height, the terrain, the glaciers, the white portion that you see on the top are the glacial area. The red colors that you're seeing right now in between where there is a Nepal, that all are forested area. Because right now what I am showing you is a false color composite. That is not a natural color. Generally, when you are going for any kind of satellite image processing, we generally create a standard false color composite. So where if you have got time, somebody is interested, I can give a talk on the basics of remote sensing and how this false color uh, is created, why we create. So you can see that using satellite image, a layman, my father can also understand what has to be done, where from the river is coming, what is the total amount of length of each rivers. So all this analysis can be done using satellite remote sensing data sets. So secondly, I wanted to see there is a the ratio of upland was upper catchment was very high. That we proved there is a relation between with the catchment. The second relationship that I wanted to prove is the area which were highly having percentage of water logging are receiving high amount of rainfall, because if you're receiving a high amount of rainfall, you'll most likely to that area will have more areas of water loggings. So that we proved using TRM data. Earlier I said tropical rainfall measuring mission, that is free of cost data sets. Point data are being downloaded, and using interpolation technique in GIS you can create a spatial map where by seeing the range, anybody, for example, if a GS was not there, what would happen? You'll get an Excel sheet written at XY location 700 meters, at YZ location decimal meters. But what to do? Nobody can understand those data set. But if you plot those data set in form of a map, it is a clear representation. You can see what area, what is the range over the terrain, and whether that has got any connection. So any layman can also understand. That's why the Honorable Prime Minister is using this technology in each and every major projects of India, whether that is Namaami Gange, whether that is forest information system, whether that is into smart city, whether that is a Google investment. So that is a upcoming field where you can have the various kind of geomorphological analysis. If I talk about the persons who are from geography, they create a geomorphological map. But right now, maximum of you would have a theoretical understanding of glacial landforms, Aeolian or Eolian landforms. You must not be able to create an updated map, a new map using a new technology. So using remote sensing and GIS, you can create your own updated map with the basis that the various lands has. Each and every portion has got different shape and characteristics. In the same way, each and every organism had got its own signatures, its own patterns, its own forest types. Like for each and every tree has got its own leaf structure. So on the basis of leaf structure, we use four kinds of resolutions during remote sensing. Spatial resolution, temporal resolution, radiometric resolution. So when it comes to identification of stress or forest identification identification, density identification. We use spectral resolution where those difference in the spectral channels that the satellite, we the human being see the visible portion, but the camera sees the entire electromagnetic spectrum that comes from visible to near infrared, in middle thermal infrared, and finally to microwave range. So using all those things, if you do the basics courses related to remote sensing and GIS, some degree courses, you will be trained to how to identify those features on the satellite image to create the updated, it is either a geological map. For example, I wanted to see whether the water table or the water logging that we see is a surface water logging or a subsurface water logging. So if I am going to have such kind of analysis, I have to have the secondary data, means the water table data. So central groundwater board or you yourself can go into the field and collect those data sets in the field, and using again the interpolation technique, because what the interpolation technique provides is the biggest advantage is on the basis of the known data sets. There are various operations we can obtain the value of unknown data sets in terms of color. So using those rates for the data sets, because for each and every wells, tube wells, you cannot go and have a reading. So for you take a average, you do a different kinds of surveying operation prior to going into the field, and you collect the samples, and on the basis of those samples you can create various maps, whether that is a groundwater. Right now I'm showing you that is a groundwater level map, but you can also show various kinds of contamination layers like arsenic maps, you can show fluoride maps. What is the advantage? If I say the name, these are the blocks, these are XYZs are arsenic affected, then nobody will understand. But if the same data, if I show especially and I connect those panchayats, those villages, so I can have a real representation ki how much area and how much people are likely to be affected by those particular disaster. So this, you can see that using this data set, we did the analysis of the pre and post monsoon, what is the water level. So we found that the areas which were having a high amount of water logging had a high amount of underground water level also. Means they were having a subsurface water logging condition, that is representation with different highly critical modulatory layers. Means more closer to the surface you're more likely to affect, or you're more likely to create a water logging. Then we created, this were the all natural barriers that are responsible for creating waterlogging in that terrain. But we also tried to see whether there is any anthropogenic influence to this. So we created the roadmap of this, and we plotted that overlay analysis was created using road density network. We created the line density, we created road density network where all the major and minor roads were created, and the red represents high density and the pink represents low density, and the this blue and light blue represents the pre and post monsoon water logging. So if you do the overlay analysis and GIS, if you see this map, you can easily see that the density where there is a high road density, there is a more likely to have uh, permanent water logging condition, because many roads like national highway, state highway are generally well planned. But when it comes to the connection of small roads, street roads, it is unplanned. Each and every person try to create its own map. So that has led to the creation of subsurface water in that area, because water come into that area and then go out. So that road is equally responsible for creation of water logging. In the same way, we try to evaluate whether there is any relationship of canal with relief and the water logging in that area. Because if you are into research, you're be having a name right now. If somebody is searching what had happened in 1920 and what was the remedy that they have done in the past Spanish flu. So same this 19 COVID-19 right now, it is after 100 years again there can be some pandemic, or after 50 years maybe I am there alive or maybe I dead. But the thought process, the technology, advancement, what we used, what I can use, what I can provide to the society, that will be unstoppable. So after 100 years also, if somebody types remote sensing and GIS and what has happened in the COVID-19 scenario, he can he read my paper, he can have those citations. So even if I'm not physically present, my thought process will be recognized, and that is the biggest advantage of doing research. Whether you're live or your death, your thought process is always what amar hai, amar. So you'll be recognized. So we use high resolution satellite image of 0.5 meter spatial resolution. Why does high resolution? Because we are wanted to identify each and every parcel of land. Means we wanted to classify till level 4 classification. Level 4 means we can identify the residential, commercial, industrial, hospitals, community roads, railway lines, urban green space. Means you have to identify first the entire landscape analysis was to be identified. Secondly, there is a green dot. Means what does this green dot means? Green dot means the spatial location where the COVID-19 patient has been confirmed positive. That is the location of that person. So what we do, we took those secondary data, and those secondary data was converted into primary data using GIS technology, and that GIS point data is known as hotspots. So nowadays, each and every person, if you must be familiar with this term hotspot. So this is the origination, the meaning of hotspot. So once you have identified the hotspot, now what was the, we did various kind of research related to literature readings, literature to scientific investigation papers. Then we consulted various doctors, administrations, and we created a questionnaire. So what we finally concluded on the basis of all the questionnaire that we created was this disease is more kind of a contact communicable in nature. So if you are more closer to that fellow, means if you are more closer to this green dot is positive cancer, you're more likely to be affected. And as you move away from this dot, your chances of being affected gradually reduces. So on the basis of this all questionnaire and the database that we created 350 meters, means 300 feet meters. If you are closer to that person spatial location, you're very at a high risk, because that person may have roamed around, and that generally 400 meter is a large area. Then beyond that, you're into orange zone, means the chances reduce. As you move away into blue and green zone, that is the safer zone, that corresponds to 1050 meters and 1400 meters. Now, there was another still. If you want to win this, the only solution is sampling. The more you sample, you'll get more number of portions to be likely to be affected, and you can cure them on time. So, what was is the logic to be sampled? So, we provided a logic that in case you are into a red zone, the 70% of the people living in that portion must be sampled. If you are into a orange zone, 50% of the population must be sampled. If you are into a blue zone, 30% of the person should be sampled. And if you are into a green zone, 20% of the person should be sampled. Means the sampling is the key to success, because you have to attack. You cannot just wait and watch. If you're waiting and watching it in India, you will never find a peak, because the population is very high. And what we said at that point of time is to stop this marginal migration of this laborers to the villages, because what will happen, this will create multiple fronts, and that will be very tough to manage. And that you can see in Bihar, that the entire India is doing unlock, and Bihar has done lockdown till 16 August. This was because many of the COVID-19 patients who were stationed in Mumbai, Maharashtra, moved to Bihar. And if you go to Bihar and UP, I should not say, the health infrastructure or the system is not so good if you compare yourself with Delhi or the metros. what we said, ki instead of making them going away to their villages, you transfer their fund to Narega fund to their account, digital account, so that they have got money. In case they have got money, nobody is going to migrate. Secondly, create a national database where you each and every portion who are living in this various zones, who are living in red zone, orange zone, green zone, and green zone, their database can be created, and the portions who were into the green zone and blue zone, those laborers can be called for work 30% or 50% on rotation, so that they can sustain their life. And gradually we can have a staff strictness to the red zone and orange zone, so that this red zone doesn't expand outwards. Instead, green should expand inwards. What has happened? This you have made, if you're migrating a person who was into a red zone and you're migrating him into a green zone person, so what will it do? It will affect the green zone and it will contaminate that area, and gradually that green zone will be converted into red zone. So that is the basic fundamentals that we suggested. Apart from that, we also suggested the government, there was a fight in Rajasthan, Jaipur, the isolation and the quarantine center were very far from where the person was found positive. The people said, why you're taking to 20 kilometers away or 30 kilometers away? So government said, what is the solution? So GIS provide you the solution. If this person green dot represents the COVID-19 patient, so using various network analysis tool in GIS, we created what are the nearest location where, in case the number of portions are increasing day by day, what are the probable location where you can go for a quantization zone, isolation zone, because you have to prepare, and preparation, if it's well, you can solve, the number of life will be, death will be reduced. So using this, we can use without going in, because right now you cannot go. The entire India is under lockdown condition. So the satellite data can only provide you the real representation location of those places, real near to that hotspots, whether it is the government hospital, hostels, restaurants, private hospitals, schools, stadiums. So using this various GIS analysis, we use this site suitability for this isolation centers. Apart from this, we do what can be done to stop this flow of outwards, because here the carrier is road. Why it's road? Because the person who is staying in the this road red zone will move outwards for its day-to-day need or for roaming around. So what we said, you block entire roads, you create the police pickets, you, because don't expand this red zone into green zone, because that will create havoc, because as more likely to be person being affected, even if you've got percent, if there is 10 lakh and if you compare that with 20 lakh, the number of population death will be too high. So try to reduce the number of person, and that can be done using such kind of decision support system and analysis, where each and every road, blocks, buildings can be identified and can be barricaded, so that this disease doesn't move outwards. Our consideration with the 13 impact factor journal. So those portions and the portion of my research I have not shown. So I am only showing you the current results of my paper that I have published. So what right now the government has said key, what to open, what not to open. Each and every person was very interested in unlock one, unlock two, in the same way lock one, lock two, lockdown. So what done? So when what was in my mind, what should I do for the people to understand, because you have to make the things easy. So I thought when I'm going to buy a car, I always see a pamphlet where it has been written VXI, VLI, VDI, and there is a tick. You will get a airbag, you won't get a, airbag, you will get a stainless wheel 16 inch. So I thought in the same way we can create a donation, where the donation will be there, and against that will be doing the community, what are the different communities and what are allowed and what are not allowed. So what recommendation we gave to the government of India, that in the range zone nobody is allowed to roam around. Each and every person will be staying there. The government of India will be providing the daily needs to whether that is a working class or whether that is a marginal class. Nobody is allowed to move. The only relaxation we gave a little bit in orange zone, where one person in a day was allowed to move, and gradually the blue and green zone, all the different activities allowed 5 days in a week, 30% of the employees, and there were other recommendation that we gave on this paper, and this paper has been accepted right now. What I am saying in Geocato International, that is a high impact publication, House of Taylor Francis, with an impact factor of 3.7. So this paper right now, some of the portion I am showing of my paper has been accepted, and then you can read those in Google. That is online. Apart from that, we are daily creating the database district wise. What is the change dynamic in Rajasthan, and how the thing is expanded, whether the strategies what we have adapted till date is sufficient or what it has to be done. So we have provided the government of Rajasthan the different GIS data sets at a ward level, that in case right now, for example, I'll quote an example how we have created. Maybe that right now there is a COVID positive paper person in some buildings that is very well organized, but near to that there are various slum areas. But right now we don't have any COVID-19 person in that area. So what does it say? If you are not making those person aware, in case they are being contaminated, just like in Dharavi, what happened in Mumbai, it will create a havoc. So what the key to success to this problem is, have this Arogya Setu, that is a contact tracing software that is very useful, and the only technique through which you can safeguard yourself from being coming into contact with a positive COVID-19 patient. Secondly is identify those areas which are highly risk of being or is likely to be affected. So why we are doing such kind of analysis? In order to have a preparedness. Once the thing has happened, you cannot prepare yourself. You have to be prepared. If something happens, what is your uh, strategy one? What is the strategy two? What is strategy three? And those things has to be done at a ward level, at a minute levels, and that we have done for the entire JDA, Jaipur Development Authority, and we have given to the government of Rajasthan. That paper has been published in Willy 2. So right now, this special domain map, you can see that all the secondary data are connected with the primary data, and against that you have got a legend where you can see whether the districts, how over the date this district started from Jaipur, gradually go to Jodhpur, and over the date how it has migrated in various districts, and the ranges are increasing day by day. Means whatever strategies and measures that we took initially were insufficient, and that's to be modified, rectified according to the current situation, and all this secondary data. So a person with a non-biased background can also understand how this COVID spatio-temporal dynamics has changed over an area. Apart from this, you can also see that this remote sensing and data can also be created for forest information system. So right now, if you want to, I'll say anybody, please go and tell me what is the area of forest. Can anybody go and tell me the area of forest in Himachal or Jammu Kashmir, Assam, Nizam? No, nobody can go. So the only thing that can go and can provide information about those forest resource is satellite image. That's why Government of India has made compulsory 2 years of training in remote sensing and GIS to all the IFS who joins that institution. That has to be done. So right now the forest FRI, FSI creates all these reports using spectral, ground field, GPS, remote sensing data sets to create the forest type and land cover type maps of India, where the various forest types, whether that is evergreen, deciduous, all the forest types can be differentiated. Apart from that, we can do various kinds of change detection analysis that over the decade, whether the forest type is stagnant or decreasing or increasing. If it's decreasing, why it's decreasing? Why it's decreasing means whether this forest is having any stress or some disease infection. If the answer is no, then why? Whether this forest has converted or agricultural practice has been converted, or any kind of construction activity or some settlements or industrialization has been done. So all such kind of analysis can be seen. You can see a satellite image where the red denotes the spatial settlements. So you can see that over the decades, how we have reduced the number of forests, the dense and the this various forest types has decreased, the forest area and the urban expansion has increased. So this is one. Apart from this, you can also use these data sets for doing various kind of environmental impact stress, assessment or detailed project report when it comes to this mining resource conservation and management. I'm from Jharkhand, so I'm showing this satellite image where right now I'm showing this image where black represents the coal mining areas. This white black dots in between are the is the open cast mining. So there the extraction has been done, and over the years there is a pit like shape where the water stays throughout the year. And this, if the water quality is not so good, and because if you don't have a proper connectivity in that area, the people, the villagers drink this area. So maximum time you will see that the persons who are in and around any mining area are having different kinds of environmental health issues related to mining, whether that is asthmatic or it can be various other diseases. So we can also correlate this using satellite image. What are the different GNSs related to whether this disease really is related to waterborne disease, airborne, or a landborne, whether some mineral is responsible. And apart from this, you can see what is the land use mining area, what was in 1992, and what we are going to extract by 2030. And still, maximum resource, what you are seeing right now, is unexplored. It is beneath the forest. So using this satellite data with other secondary ground-field data sets, we can identify the resources which are undiscovered, unexplored in the terrains, because we have got specific signatures for each and every object. So using those hyperspectral data sets and the signatures, we identify the different mineral resources, and then using some field verification and field ground verification, we can go for various exploration. This is a digital elevation model that I have already told you how it can help us to create a contour. Using contour, you can create a digital elevation model, and using digital elevation model, you can create a terrain model. Using a terrain model, you can know the what is the slope, the inclination. So all the portions who are related to your deep study. Generally, I am also a geologist. We used to do various kinds of field based, but now because of the advancement in the data set and the technology, those outdated technology can be replaced by this technology driven data sets. Apart from that, you can see that in each and every year there is a lot of debate going on that the glaciers are melting, glaciers are melting. I'll say go and map the area of glaciers. Can anybody can go? No. The answer is no. But the only thing through which you can have a multi-temporal date analysis where the glacier is increasing, decreasing, we have got various climatic models can be done. You can see in the current satellite image, you can see that what was the area of glacier of Gangotri in 1718, 1935, 1956, 64, 71, 2001, and we have got various models where we can predict what if the same trends continue, what will be the area in 2030 and 40. So that provides you a decision maker whether the strategies what we have made over the year is having any positive change or having a negative change. Because you can see on the right hand side, our last large area can be seen, because many of the persons who are from a non-remote sensing background will be seeing ki this is what red color, orange color, blue, light blue, white. What does it indicate? But this indicates various, without going into the field, we the interpreter, image analyst can identify each and every object. That's why you are seeing that whenever there is a movement of army is always through goods train, or your army bases are always near a forest, or it is undercover. Why? From whom they are hiding? They are hiding from satellites. So satellites provides you the real information for that. In case you are hiding, we can also have thermal satellite images for that. So in case right now you are seeing that last year the government of India said that there was a lot of electrification done by Honorable Prime Minister in the current BJP government. So there was a 9 vision satellite image shown, where it was shown of 1991, for example, and 2014. So they said in 1991 this where there's areas where there was no electrification. In 2014 we have converted the entire thing into electrification. So all those things, kind of analysis can be done using satellite remote sensing, that we use one remote sensing that is having a night vision opportunity and the capability. This is another map where you can see that I have Dr. Shruti, the other faculty of my department. She is the as a specialist in India working in the field of forest fire management, where you can use this satellite data. Generally, this forest fire is a concept of a foreign land. Gradually, in the coming 3-4 years, the portions are talking about forest fire, but our faculty has done research long back with a 12 or 13 years of experience. So anytime if any organizers would be interested for her lecture, she can create, she can suggest you okay, how this subject is used for simulation models. So she is more into that, so she can do that. And I was associated with various urban information systems. So you can see this how we create this urban information system, where each and every parcel of land is identified is on the basis of shape, size, texture, color, pattern, association, height. We identify the different earth features, whether that is a residential, commercial, swimming pool, parks, forested area, vegetated area. We create that geo database, and then finally we create a master information or a urban information system for that area. In the same way, if you go for the Khasra maps, previously if you talk to your father, he'll say ki go to Patwari, and the you will be getting a, you on the right hand side you show there is a map that is a handwritten, that doesn't have any scale, so that is not a map, that is a drawing. So what the GIS has provided you, helped you, that has provided you, help you means you this cadastral maps where geo-referenced with a high spatial resolution data sets, whether that is a QuickBook, Iconos, and each and every parcel of land was digitized and was connected and geo-tagged with its spatial property. Now, any person who wants to see the land digitally can go on the website of Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh. All those government sets, they have created this land information system in their portal, government portals, where through system using your login password, you can see who is the owner and all the characteristics, how it has been transferred. So all such kind of analysis in help of secondary data with the help of primary data is changing the entire setup of rural India. And you can see that NIRD, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, has created various setups and are running successfully various startups and models where the secondary data with the satellite data are being correlated to create a solution to various problems. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening me, and I am exceeded the time. Sorry for that.
Hello everyone
So,
again. Thank you so much,
anybody
sir.
having any questions?
Yeah, sir. I have one small question to ask.
Yeah,
In one of
yeah,
your
yeah.
present, in one of your PPT, you showed us that glacier is melting and glacier is
Yeah.
coming down the hill. So
Yeah.
how to monitor that age? Because you have written in 1730 it was there, then gradually
Yeah.
it is decreasing over years. So how do we
Yeah.
get that data that exactly at this particular time it was there and now it is decreasing? Because I'm being a field geologist, so we can just go and see whether there are any evidences of glacier being there. But being monitoring it from satellite imageries, how is it possible to tag that age over there?
That is a depository. So in India, you have got a UN, and for USGS, Landsat, you have got the depository where the each and every day the satellite has got a revisit time. Means each and every satellite will be revisiting and will be taking the images and that particular date with that particular time that is prefixed. So in case you are doing any kind of a topographical analysis, you can easily identify whether you want to take the data 10-year wise, 5-year wise, daily wise. So generally 5 year is the minimum cap. So after 5 days, you can have the data set again for that same parcel of land. So
Okay, so
each and
in
every,
17
uh,
in
yeah,
1730 also like the
and in 1730, you have got the question is in 1730 when our ancestors they were more highly knowledgeable than the current batch what we have. They have created the entire maps. They the we were invaded by foreigners. We were whether it's from coast or from mountains. So those invaders used to create maps. So in many of the movies recently there was a movie of Maharashtra. क्या नाम था उसका? कान्हा जी। तो अब जब वो ये एंट्री मारता है सैफ अली खान तो वो चलता है उधर से उसका राजा वो मैप में बोलता है कि रुको और वो तुम्हारा साम्राज्य है। तो मैप आज का उद्देश्य नहीं है, मैप आज से नहीं बन रहा है, मैप तो
yes sir,
सदियों सालों से बन रहा है। हम
yes sir.
अब उसको सैटेलाइट डेटा में अपडेट कर रहे हैं। तो जब भी वैसा कोई स्टडी करना पड़ता है
So
तो
our
आप
geo
सेकेंडरी डेटा
our geo referencing is so much accurate that we can correlate with that map nowadays.
Yeah, because you can overlay and you can see. You can overlay and see, and you have got RMSE error, root mean square error. So
Yes sir.
the more is the error, it will deteriorate or deviate from its path, and it will be lesser in nature. And we can there is a flip option in ADAS, ArcGIS that we can easily do. That is not a
Yes,
big issue. That
yes sir.
we can easily identify.
Okay,
Not an
sir.
issue.
I just had that little query to ask. Thank you so much. So I don't think our viewers have any query to ask because they are not writing anything in chat box. Okay, so we'll call it off now. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and for
Okay.
sharing your knowledge with us. We'll keep in touch with you in future also, and yeah, we'll try to contact with other faculties also of your university. Thank you so much, sir.
हाँ जी हाँ जी. Have a good day.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Same to you.